Hello, my name's Whitney Higginbotham, and this is my webpage I titled The Invisible Wounds, and it is on the growing epidemic of veteran suicide. So, as you can see, there is a slideshow of different pictures here. They kind of depict the military. There's some, with family members. There's also a picture, one of them where the military's doing an honorable funeral, the American flag, and different things like that. Those show the seals of all of the branches in the U.S. military. So there's a few pages. There's home, factors, signs, and your part. There's also a contact page. As you scroll down, there's a quote. They are the casualties of wars you don't often hear about. Little is known about the true scope of suicides among those who have served in the military. And then down at the bottom, there's a little snippet about while numbers are often not agreed upon, every American can agree that numbers are way too high. So over here to the right are some statistics. 188, that's the number of veteran suicides as reported by the Department of Veteran Affairs in 2006. 6,256 is the number of veteran suicides as reported by 45 different states who participated in a report with CBS. As you can see, comparing both of those, 188 and 6,256 are two very different numbers. So 22 is going to be the current number of veteran suicide as reported by the Department of Veteran Affairs, and this is daily. That reports to one veteran every 65 minutes committing suicide daily, and that is a current statistic. So down here at the bottom, I mentioned that CBS study. That news link is right here. The Department of Veteran Affairs, there's some information there on how to get a hold of them and how to contact the crisis line. You can also find your representative and some helpful resources. We'll get back to those links in a few pages. So on the next link, factors, you see the pride factor. And a study using VA healthcare found that 29% of OEF and OIF, which stands for Operation Enduring Freedom, as well as Operation Iraqi Freedom, veterans had 2 mental disorder diagnoses, while a third had 3 or more. I was given the opportunity to speak with a Marine who chooses not to be named, and he called it a pride factor. When you take someone who served and try to acclimate them to what they call garrison life or civilian life, you run into complications, both from mental trauma as well as a loss of responsibility. Most military members are too prideful to seek the help that they need due to the attitudes attributed during their training. We also see some changes in the way that wars are conducted. The high suicide rate among service members grows out of nearly 10 years of war. So we're not just saying that veterans were more likely to commit suicide versus a civilian. This spike has actually increased within the last 10 years. In 2001 and 2004, the military rate was about half of the national rate of 19 suicides per 100,000 people. The increase with the OEF and OIF, as opposed to other wars, is said to be due to the change in combat techniques, including changes in technology and weaponry. So multiple deployments is another reason. Veterans are now being deployed numerous times in a shorter of amount of time, so that contributes as well to different suicide behaviors and reasons in them committing that. The last area I'm going to discuss is PTSD medication. So there's been an increase with the prescriptions of medications for mental illnesses with veterans, and particularly PTSD medication, which is post-traumatic stress disorder. These medications all come with severe side effects, but mainly being suicidal thoughts and behavior. So we think that because of the increase in medication, that possibly that leads to the increase in suicide. So I'm going to lead you to a link with more signs, some risk factors, and some protective factors. Some of the risk factors include some major physical illness, mental disorders, and substance use disorders, barriers to accessing health care, stigma associated with help-seeking behavior, easy access to lethal means, such as firearms or poison, lack of social support and sense of isolation, and cultural or religious beliefs that accept suicide. Some of the protective factors include effective clinical care for physical illnesses, mental disorders, substance use disorders, easy access to a variety of clinical interventions, support for help seeking behavior, restricted access to lethal means. And another one of those protective factors is going to be cultural and religious beliefs that discourage suicide. Let's back on up here to your part. This is a quote from Paul Rickoff, the founder of the Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. And he said that when you raise your right hand and put on that uniform, you assume you're going to be taken care of. So considering this was the do your part of my webpage, I wanted to really appeal to Americans and kind of let them know that it is our responsibility to take care of those that fight for our freedoms. In my little part underneath the do your part, it says, we can all work together to eradicate suicide among our veterans. By looking at the information here, you've already taken that first step. On December 4th, 2014, which was actually yesterday, many veterans marched in D.C. to urge the Senate to act on a bill to prevent veteran suicide. So linked at the bottom is a way to find your local representatives. Please make sure to contact them and stress your concerns and the urgency of the issue. The bill at hand is the Clay Hunt Suicide Prevention Act. If you need to know it by name to talk to your representatives, or if you want to do more research and information on that, learn the behaviors, and if you or a loved one is a veteran and notices some of the risk factors, please contact the Veteran Crisis Center, also linked under helpful resources. So as I said, I put some of these links down here, so I'm going to click on a few. The CBS News link, where a lot of the information was found. Find your representatives. So right here, any of the users can type in their zip code and find their representatives that represent them in Washington to really urge them with this bill. And then under helpful resources, once you click that, it'll automatically take you to the Veteran Crisis webpage. And it's taking a little bit to load, so we'll just go back to the web page. And then the last part of my website is going to be a contact form. So if there's anybody that has any more questions or concerns pertaining to veteran suicide, they can contact me and I can give them some more resources on the information that I have found. And if anybody wanted to help with anything else or had more questions, they could do that there. They could also offer personal testimonies, and I've even thought about adding a current event tab, that shows tweets and things like that that are concerning the issues to this later on. And then there's another quote down here. These Americans served our nation bravely. They didn't die because they were weak, and the fact that they did not get the help that they need must change. And that's a call to really challenge everyone to eradicate this issue, and that's from President Obama. Thank you so much for listening and looking at my webpage. Again, that's found at whitneylace.wix.com/veteran suicide, and that URL is at the top of the link. Thank you so much.